This conference will now be recorded.
Oh,
All yours, Mark. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Ellis.
with a bit of luck, you're seeing my screen.
Yep.
Okay. The talk tonight was actually culled from my original 2015 security talk, which you can probably see from the copyright in the bottom right-hand corner. I am not going to go through the whole of that because at the moment, an awful lot of that is irrelevant, as we are now in a lockdown situation. We will not be doing anything to do with being careful out in places like Starbucks with Wi-Fi and such like, and making sure nobody's looking over your shoulder, because if somebody's looking over your shoulder now, it must be illegal. They should not be that close.
Mark, sorry, Mark, can I interrupt you for a second?
Of course.
I need to mute all of the microphones, which means that you'll need to unmute yourself, okay?
Okay, one moment. Where's my mouse gone?
Okay, I'm muting now. That should have done it.
Unmuted. Right. If anybody wants to ask a question during this, unmute yourself, say your name, and then ask the question. This is going to be interesting because it's so much easier when I can stand up in front of you and you can look at the idiot at the front and ask awkward questions. It's a lot more awkward like this, but let's see how it goes. Anyway, security. We'll start with what most people think about, which is your average hacker. And as you can see from the first slide, this is description I'm used for. The real word's hack. It's a miner's pick, gash or a wound, or a kick with the toe of a boot, or you can cut wood roughly with an axe. A hacker is a person who uses computers to gain unauthorized access to data. Quite often an enthusiastic and skilled computer programmer or user, a person or thing that hacks or cuts roughly. That's the basic definition of hacker. Initially, you need to be quite intelligent to start it, but later on you find that most people could do it if they were to do a little bit of searching on the internet. We will be going into social engineering because this is definitely part of what's going on at the moment. You can see the definitions there: practice making laws or using other methods to influence public opinion and solve social problems, or the management of human beings. But it's, in our context, it's not the management of human beings, it's the manipulation of human beings. And how gullible can you be? We'll be looking briefly into malware. This is not going to be an education on how do I get rid of it once I've got it in any sort of depth. It's more trying to stop you from getting it in the first place. And there are 4 definitions I've given you there. Software, which is your applications and also the operating system you're running on. Hardware, that's obviously your MacBook, your iMac, your iPhone, your iPad, your watch, your iWatch, your iThis, your anything else, which is the physical thing you can pick up and throw across the room when you've had enough of it. Firmware. Now that is a programming aspect again. It is code between the hardware and the software. So the software talks to the firmware talks to the hardware. You can bypass from software straight to hardware, but most of the time you should go through the firmware. And then we come to the bad boy, malware. Bad software, very occasionally in firmware, but usually it's software. It's part of an application you've downloaded that maybe you shouldn't have done. It's a piece of software which you have acquired by accident from driving past or just visiting a website that you shouldn't be near. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to sites which are you shouldn't be anywhere near. That doesn't mean it's a pornographic website or anything like that. If a site has been hacked and got some of this horrible stuff on it, you can end up with it. What can you do to keep safe? Right, we're going to go on to the email side of things, which is probably where most of this is coming on. The first thing I have to say is that email scams since COVID-19 started has increased by 600%. Yeah,
Wow.
you heard it, 600%. Not a small amount, a huge amount. Some of that is things like companies advertising face masks and the such like. Suddenly you're told that, oh, you can buy these face masks from us for COVID-19. It's rare that they're actually genuine. Some of it's telling you you need to look at health and safety for a business to do with COVID-19. And some of it's just these idiots trying it on, trying to get money out of your wallet or your bank account. Now, this slide's a little bit out of sequence from what I want to do tonight, because coming from the old one, as you can see from the copyright, this is to do really with your accounts you've got. Now, when I say accounts, I don't necessarily mean the account on your Mac. What I'm really talking about is web-based accounts. If it's possible to use different email addresses for one or two websites that you log into, it would help. It's useful. On the other hand, you don't want a couple of hundred different email addresses because they become unmanageable. But separate ones can help reduce the risk if you get hacked in one place of you actually being hacked in another place as well. Now this is the second one is the awkward one, a different password per account. Now I wonder if there's anybody out there who actually uses a completely different password for every login account they have.
I do.
It would be nice. Yeah. I'm glad somebody does. Most of them don't. Although Apple has made it easier by suggesting random passwords for you. If you accept the Apple random password, the chances of somebody managing to guess any of those passwords, certainly from one site to another, is remote to say the least. The only problem with those passwords is you are not, or I suspect you are not going to remember them. But it is a good way of doing it. The other problem I've come across with the Apple passwords, there are some sites which will not accept those passwords. There are one or two sites they should do. There's nothing wrong with the characters Apple uses, but I've come across one or two that have decided that the password is too long. And considering we're always being told, and we should always be told, to keep the password as long as possible, that to me is an oversight, which these companies need to sort out. The other thing that will help is two-tier security. This is quite often used. This is used by Apple on their Apple ID, on their iCloud system. A lot of the banks now start to use this sort of thing as well. And the idea of two-tier security is that you are not relying on just a password. The way most of them work is that you go to log into the website, you pop in your password, you tell it to log in, but before it will let you log in fully, it will send your mobile phone a text message with a particular set of characters, which you then have to enter in. Now, the only way people are likely to be able to bypass that is if they've stolen your phone and they have your password and your email address to log in with. The chances of them having all three is small. It's not non-existent, but it is small. The other aspect of two-tier security is a secondary thing, really, more than two tiers. You'd have your email address, you'd have your password, then having hit the login button, you are then asked to enter certain sequence of characters from a pre-chosen secret word or phrase. This helps. It's not completely secure, but again, it's another level to keep the idiots out. Next bit that says do not link accounts. And some of you probably know what I mean with that, and some of you are probably going, what is he talking about? Okay, You may have noticed, or you may not have noticed, that there is an awful lot of sites now where you go to log on to them, especially if you go to log on to them fresh, is they come up and say, log in with your Facebook account, log in with your Gmail account details and the such like. And there's one or two others that do others doing the same thing. To me, that's not a good idea, because that means you're using the same login details for those accounts and also to this new account, this new site you've just gone to. It's another link. The more links there are, the more likely there is that somebody can do something you didn't want them to. Taking a step sideways, I said keep a local backup. Always keep a local backup. And you've heard me, you must be really, really, really bored with this one now. Backup, backup, backup. If you've got a secure backup and somebody manages certainly to hack into your Mac itself, providing they haven't had the opportunity to erase your backup, if they have got in, you've got an issue, you can always wipe the machine and restore from the backup. Change your passwords, off you go. And I would recommend, in the last item, not to use your Apple ID as your local login. I have seen one or two people do it, and it means that if somebody manages to work out your local Mac login, it means they've also got your Apple ID and your iCloud login straight away, and they can cause merry hell with that. Any questions? Well, either there's no questions or I'm talking to myself.
Phil, it's Phil. I
Go
have a
ahead.
question. You talked about the long passwords that are suggested. You know, that you say sometimes they're treated as too long and don't work, etc. And you also said you won't remember them. But isn't the idea that you don't need to remember them because they are remembered by your machine?
Yeah.
Is that not the case?
Yeah, that is the case. They can be remembered by the machine. There are some balancing acts with some of these things. You don't have to remember it, because you can get Safari in your system and your keychain to remember it for you, which is fine. And I have to be honest, I do it because there's only so much we can do where security is concerned. The problem is, if somebody managed to get your Mac password and got into your Mac, they could then get access to all of your passwords that have been saved. But we're going to a level then which is starting to become silly. It's the point of paranoia. So you are quite right. We don't have to remember them because they're saved elsewhere. And I know that some people like things like 1Password. Other products are available. I tend to rely on the Mac itself or on my memory, which tends to fail every now and again. But yeah, good point, Phil. Good point.
And just to follow up on that, is it if you do accept one of these long passwords that's suggested, is it then accessible with different machines, from my iPhone and the iMac and etc., or is it just on the one that you initially accepted it for?
If you've enabled the sharing, the keychain sharing on all your devices, then you will have that password. That password will be accessible on all your devices when you go to that website.
All right. Okay.
It works with me. I've got a website set up, new login details on the iMac. If I go away, go to that website on my iPhone, the option to use that login, that password is on the iPhone as well.
And is it enabled by default, or have I got to go and actually check?
You used to have to go and check it.
Okay.
I have to be honest, because I've been using it for so long, I don't know if it's become a default. Something
Okay.
we need
to check.
But if you go into your iCloud, if you go into System Preference, go into iCloud, you'll be able to see in there whether or not the keychain is checked. If it's checked, then you can share it across the machine. If it's not, then it's just the machine you did it on.
Okay.
Quick rundown of how many ways. Yes, malicious and phishing emails. That's what we're going to come across soon. Phone calls. Social engineering is really phone calls amongst other things, not just phone calls though. Bogus applications. Yes, there are some applications out there that look like they're the genuine thing, but they are not. Bad links is probably one of the easiest ways to get caught out. You get a pop-up tech support I've seen occasionally telling you that you need to talk to tech support because you've got goodness knows how many thousands upon thousands of viruses on your machine and we can help you. And then there's the last one, good old-fashioned hacking. Now the good old-fashioned hacking I've left at the bottom because the actual hacking these days tends to be more into the corporates than it does into individuals. Most individuals are not worth spending the time and effort it takes to hack an individual machine at their home. Emails, what to look for. I'm going to change my screen now and see if we can see a small selection of dodgy emails I've picked up. Bear with me a moment, and here we go. Here's a few I collected earlier. I've got one here, as you can see, which was sent to suffolkmax.co.uk-control, to which you immediately look at and go, really? Let's pop that up. Oh, look, it's Ionis. Yes, my email and my website are at Ionis. But even to glance at this one, I'm just glancing at it and going, you've got to be joking. This is absolute twaddle. And you can see, to start with, you look, Suffolk Mac. Well, there's no such domain as suffolkmax.co.uk-control. It doesn't exist. So if you just hover your mouse over there, you can see there's a drop-down list. Now, if I just left-click on that, oh, that's what it's really going to. A Wills kit at bidaircargo.com, whoever that is. So that's your first indication that there's something slightly fishy going on, or there might be. And if you're not sure about that, there's no such thing as Ionis by 1&1. Ionis took over 1&1. Dear inquiries, really? I need to rectify an error on your account. Confirm activeness of inquiries at suffolkmax.co. Confirm activeness. There, the English is falling apart at the seams. And then if you look at the link that's there, before we hover on it, confirm your account is active. Well, the last time I looked at the Oxford English Dictionary, there was no 0 after C in confirm. These are all stupid little things, but they're all things you should be picking up on when you're getting an email that you're suspicious of. And if you're not suspicious of it, well, you should be by now. If you hover over the link, oh, look, there's something else there, which is different again. So that's going to the apartments, sumalis.com. Just hover back again. KA5 bad 1&1, which has nothing to do with it. Email. What that's going to say, if I was to click on that link, it would go to that website of the apartments Sumalis, and it would send them going to a web page of KA5 bad 1&1, and then it would give them the inquiries at suffolkmax.co.uk email address, which basically tells the website at the other end who's sending it. And that's me. So at that point, if you click on that, they then know that this email address really exists, and now we can start to work on it. So the thing with all of these things is when you see a link to be clicked on and it's in the middle of something like this, don't do it, because they don't know at the moment that A, I'm going to respond, B, I exist. They know very, very little about me. The moment you click on that link, they know you exist. They also know that I've been stupid enough to click on it, which means if I'm stupid enough to click on that, I'm probably stupid enough to do something else. And if you just drag down a bit further, you can see again, spelling. accounts with a 0. Interesting. Don't know which book they looked at, which spelling book they have, but it wasn't mine. The only thing that actually, the link that actually goes to the right place is that does go to my website, but I still won't click on it because I still don't trust it. It looks like it will go there. Let's not find out the hard way that it doesn't. This is another favorite one. Again, I suspect an awful lot of you have had this sort of thing. Facebook ID verification. Yes, I do have a Facebook account, but it's got nothing to do with inquiries at suffolkmax.co.uk first to start with.
Mark, can you make these any bigger? Very difficult to see.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Better?
that's good. Thank you.
So I'm on a 27-inch screen and I've got no idea. I actually need somebody to say something like that, right?
Yeah, we're all peering at the screen very closely to see.
You can make it bigger by putting your cursor on the right hand side and doing the plus button. That's what I did.
Oh really? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That might work.
Oh
if
yeah.
I make it and you do it, it'll be too big for your screen.
Thank you. That's a good idea. Thank you.
Okay, right. Yeah, the first clue is the Facebook account that I do have, which is just a holding page, has never been registered to inquiries at suffolkmax.co.uk. So that's a lie to start with. Yes, it goes to the genuine address, but it's not me. So let's have a look. Go up to Facebook. Again, click on the drop down. No reply at facebook.co.uk. I still don't trust it. So we have a look at the rest of this. There's no links there. What's this upload now? Let's hover over there. What do we get? Oh, look. http://nabrdr.com. I don't know about you, but it doesn't sound like Facebook to me. So this just by hovering over it. So all you need to do with a link, hover over it, leave your mouse still for a few seconds. It's no good going up to it and doing this because it won't do anything. You just hover over it, don't click on it, just hover, let it appear, and it shows you what's really behind that link. As for if you fail to perform ID verification, or access will be disabled, I think you'll find that's quite the opposite. If you click on it, it will be disabled at some point because somebody else will get into it and change the password or take control of your Facebook page, which could be most embarrassing. This is slightly different. I don't know if anybody else out there tends to get these. I'm assuming people do, and it's not just her business, but I've seen loads and loads of this sort of stuff, and it drives me absolutely, and I'm going to magnify it because I've just remembered what was said. Sorry, Jeff. There we go. How's about that? This isn't your straightforward scam. They're not trying to make out that they're, Facebook or somebody like that, and they're going to do something horrible to you. There's all sorts of things like this. You've got app deals. It goes to info@consumer6online.com. I've no idea who they are. And if we look at, they've got a reply to, which is separate, does go to the same one. Quite often you'll find the reply to goes to somebody completely different. But my take on these is just look at it, just read it. They're going to give you wow moments. They're going to do all of this sort of stuff for you. It's perfect. It's no. I think this is a cold scam. And as you can see, if you hover over the first link, it's different to the email at the top. Different domain completely. Web.coach outlet. I beg your pardon. What's this one then? Where does this one go? Is it the same? It is at least the same, and that is novel in this sort of thing. The biggest thing with anything like this, you should look at them. I cannot recommend anybody ever touches them. I do not believe them. I think they're just another con. But whatever you do, when you get these, don't click on that one. Because if you click on that one or any of the others, they then know you really exist. All of this sort of stuff is done. It's phishing. It's just blasting it out there, and with the assumption, and they're probably right, that at some point somebody, some poor sap somewhere, is going to click on one of those links, and they will then go phishing, and they will be reeling them in. This is another very common one, and you've probably, most of you, seen these quite a lot, and it's from apparently David Watson, and it may or may not be a genuine email address. I've seen a lot of these from hacked BT accounts and hacked Hotmail accounts. I get a lot of these coming through, and as you see here, you've got David Watson up here, david.watson@idsco.com. When you look down here, it's supposed to be a forwarded message from david.watson@btinternet.com. And if you click on that, it would mail to david.watson. Or no, it wouldn't, not quite. It goes to n.david.watson. So there's another slight difference, just another clue as to what's going on. Look at that, that's genuine. I wouldn't click on that in a million years because you've no idea where it's going. And you'll often find that there is a link inside these like this, a search form. Goodness knows where it's going to go, what it's going to do. Just don't do it. Don't ever click on it. I've seen a lot of these which are or appear to be from people I know. Their accounts are genuine. What it basically means is they've been hacked yet again, and it gets very boring having to contact them by other means saying your email account's been hacked again. Please change your password, lock it down.
Mark,
Yeah.
it's Jeff here. If you should click on one of these by mistake, you know, by just pressing the mouse, is there something you can do to stop the infection, like turn your computer off straight away?
Yeah, but you're unlikely to have something happen immediately. You're going to get taken to a website somewhere, and it depends on what on earth that website's doing or going to do. Most of the time you'll go to these websites and you'll then be invited to do something else.
Okay.
The chances are you're okay on that first click, but you can't guarantee it. It partly depends on what's in the link. If I show you for a moment, here we go. If you hover over the link, you can look at that lot. You can see this whole lot. There's a whole load of information in there being sent to the website. So it's not just the domain that you see to start with.
Okay.
So you've got the U1908. I'm getting some feedback from somebody somewhere. It's not just that. It's all the stuff that's behind it that does the damage, because the web server looks at that initial, it takes the information, you've got the domain, it sends you to the domain, then the website looks at all of those characters tagged on the end of it and does something with them. If you're lucky, it just takes you to another page on the website, at which point, with a bit of luck, it hasn't done anything. If you're unlucky, it will start trying to do something else. It will run some code and start trying to get into your system. As for if you've clicked on it and you think something's happened, if your Mac is connected via a network cable plugged in the back, unplug the network cable. The moment you do that, it can't do anything because there's no connection. You can switch the machine off, but I would suggest that before you switch it on again, you disconnect it from the network. If you're on Wi-Fi, you can either switch the Wi-Fi off at the top straight away, or switch off your router or whatever else is giving you Wi-Fi, so that when you power the machine back up again, it doesn't immediately start to connect and start to try to do anything. It's at that point that you start to look around on your machine to see if there's anything on there that you don't recognize. Is there something that's appeared this evening that wasn't there yesterday? It's a small possibility. It is a possibility, but it's a small possibility. So don't panic over it, but do think about it. And if you do get to the situation where you think you've got something Mac. Next time you power it up in safe mode. So the Mac is switched off, you switch it on, hold down one of the shift keys on the keyboard and don't let go of the shift key until you see the Apple logo and the progress bar appear. Once that happens, you're starting to go into safe mode. What's the difference between safe mode and your normal running is it doesn't run up all sorts of things automatically. It only runs up a subset of what the Mac can do. So most of the malware that could have got onto the machine won't be running in safe mode. It will only be running when the machine boots up properly, which then gives you a chance to have a root round safely to have a look at what's in there and see if there's anything dodgy. Yeah, things like this also can be a bit of a wind up. It's all very similar. It's not the same, but it is similar. And you look at this and think, really, would I? If somebody's going to do something for your website, this is aimed more at businesses. If you want somebody to look at your website and you're getting people saying, I can do this for you and I can do that for you. The first thing is, if they're a professional web designer or SEO, this one's dodgy to start with, because if you look at that, you'll see it says Nelly at urit-like.online, but the reply to is nellyharper49@gmail.com. Something different there. Don't like the look of that. But even if somebody wants to approach me to say, look, I can help you with your website, one of the first things I look at is, okay, you do web design, but you don't have a website that I can see. You've got no links to a website, and you've just got a Gmail domain. Surely if you're a professional web designer, I would hope so, you'd have your own domain, which will also give you your own email address domain. So that, coupled with that, says I wouldn't touch this with a barge pole.
Funny enough.
And the last pair was this. Here we go again. This is very similar to what we've just looked at. I hope you can see a pattern emerging of what goes on and what people try to do. Again, this one thinks it can help me with my SEO, can help me to get out there on the internet and increase my profits. So it's Isabella Fair online. Okay, fine. A little bit different, but if you look at this as well, there's no phone number, there's no address, there's no website. Everything is conspicuous by its absence. And there's another one. And again, if you look at the content of both of them, the names are different, but apart from that, they're the same. So these are just some basic things to look out for with email scams. Just be careful looking at them. The other email scams that you might see coming through is emails that look like they might be from a friend or a relative. The classic ones are, I'm stuck out here in the back of beyond, I've lost my passport, my mobile phone, I've just been robbed, could you send 4,000 euros over please to help me get home? To which the answer is no, not in a million years, because you're not genuine, you are not my friend, you are not my relative, I've never seen you before, and I don't wish to be taken to the cleaners. Do we have any questions on this email side of things? Oh, it's all quiet.
It's John Cook. I have a question, and it relates to the preferences on the mail app that you're using here. One of the sort of security options is whether or not to load remote content. And I've always had that turned off because I worry that some of these spam emails can ask to load remote content, and that at least might give away the genuineness of your email address. So I always have it turned off. What do you think about that?
I think it's a good idea to keep it turned off. Mine is only turned off when it goes into the junk. The junk mail filters seem to be quite good. They don't get everything. The only downside of not loading the external content is having to click on it and tell it to unload to load it when it's genuine. But from a security point of view, yeah, you're right, absolutely right. It's the best thing to do. It reduces the opportunity for the nutter to try and come in. Anything else?
Yeah, Mark, is there any significance in your list there where you've got the green arrows, the green squares with a white arrow?
What, these ones?
Yeah.
No, that's part of the email. That's nothing. If you look at the email up here, it's not me, it's what they've done.
I only wondered because I use FSecure, and when I'm on the websites, it sort of give an indication whether it's a safe website or otherwise. And I just wondered if there's any significance in that, really.
No, there isn't. If you look at that, it's not actually any form of antivirus or anti-malware that's ticking things up. That's what they've actually put in. And one of the reasons they put it in is exactly as you've said. It makes it look like, oh no, this has been checked, this is all right. It's just another aspect of the con.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
One
Mark,
aspect.
it's Christoph. One of the things that I was told about the loading remote content was that they can just send a 1 pixel message on there, which they then know that you've opened the email. Is that correct?
No, they can't. No.
Right.
They can't tell. Well, a one pixel, you'd have to once you've received the email, you have to actively do something to make it happen. You've got
right.
to, or you've got loaded remote content in, and the remote content that gets loaded most of the time is pictures. It tends to be pictures.
Yeah.
It's highly unlikely to be any code, and a 1 pixel piece of code isn't going to do anything.
Right.
Certainly not going to be able to go off to their website and tell you you've opened it. This is the person that's opened it. Please hack them now.
Right. Okay. Cheers.
Somebody else was trying to come in as well.
Yeah, I just wanted to, it's Phil again. Just wanted to know what you thought about these sites where you can report dodgy, suspicious phishing attempts. Is it worth the bother, or do they get so many that
they get a huge amount? But it's very much a case of, if we all do or somebody else would do it, there's too many, so let's not bother. Nobody will do it, nothing will get reported, and things will ramp up. So yeah, do it, but only do it when you get something fresh. If you've reported something and then you get it another 5 or 6 times, don't report it another 5 or 6 times. It doesn't help.
right? Okay.
It's Ferris here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to make the same point that Christopher made, and my understanding is if you have a remote content of 1 pixel and the act of fetching that 1 pixel sends a notification that that email has been opened.
No, there's nowhere near enough information with that 1 pixel to do anything. If that 1 pixel happens to be a link going somewhere, and if you were to hover over it, you'd see it, you'd still have to click on it to make it do something. It can't run off to the website on its own.
No, but that has to be fetched though, doesn't it? That 1 pixel has to be fetched if it's remote content.
This, have you seen this 1 pixel?
You don't need to see it.
Has anybody actually seen it?
No.
No. When you download an email, what's happened is an email's got sent from wherever, whether it's friend or foe, it gets sent to their mail server. Their mail server sends it across eventually to your mail server. At some point, you decide, collect my emails. That email is then brought down from that from your mail server into your machine. If you look at the content of your email rather than what you're seeing, you are just seeing the surface with this email system at the moment. You'll be able to see what's in there, and this is where I wish I could be in front of everybody. There is nothing inside that email that's going to be able to automatically run to clear off to the bad website, the bad mail server, or anything else. I just want to see if I can show you by view message. Right, here we go. I'm doing a view of the message and I'm showing you that's what's in the email. That is the raw email itself before the email client gets hold of it and pulls out a lot of the stuff. Let me see if I can magnify that. Oops, no, it won't let me magnify it. I don't think I can. No, I can't magnify that, unfortunately. The text is probably quite small. This is what comes down, and you can see by looking through here, there's a filter results of junk and the such like. And if you get pictures inside your email, if you look at it, that is what a picture would look like inside your email. It's just characters. It's not code, it's just characters. And those characters have to be changed from that into a picture. And the reason is email systems cannot actually send direct code. The email system was designed originally only to send text, only to send ASCII characters. That's it. Nothing that could be run. So in order to send any sort of picture, what it has to do at the end that's sending it has to convert the picture into a whole load of characters. So a whole load of characters like that would be a very, very, very small picture. Excuse me. But there's nothing in there that's actually going to run. So unless you get something that can actually, you can click on, it goes to a link to run, or unless you've managed to download in your email an executable, and a single pixel is not going to be big enough to be an executable file. So if it's not big enough to be an executable file, it can't run, it can't do anything. I've heard about, I've never seen anything, but I have heard about this single pixel business before. And from my experience, and I've done plenty of time coding things as well, you are never going to get enough code inside a single pixel to do any damage. If I ever come across anything that could, I will be the first to stand up and say, oh God, I'm a prat. I've missed it. It can happen. But I really, really don't see how it can. And I've never come across it. I've never heard of anybody having had it happen.
Mark, how does like a mail service like MailChimp or whatever, they can tell that an email has been opened then, can't they?
No, they're not telling it's been opened, but they can tell it's been received.
Okay.
There's no code running again.
Right.
There's a whole protocol goes on with all these mail systems. At one end says, I'm sending this to you, have you got it? And the other end says yes, and it all goes backwards and forwards and bounces from one end to the other.
Right.
Okay, anything else, or shall we move on? In that case, I'm going to dump my mail and go back to this one. But I hope at the very least, what I'm trying to give to you then was give everybody was an idea of what to look for. Besides the bits and pieces I was showing them, the most obvious things tend to be poor grammar, horrendous spelling or total lack of spelling, And we often get emails that come through which have no paragraphs, no punctuation whatsoever. And they're asking me all sorts of things. And I'm just looking at them and saying, no, don't want to know. But the main thing is, if in doubt, don't. And if you're not expecting something to come through from somebody or something, the chances are it's not genuine. One of the classics in the past, I don't know if anybody's ever seen one of these, and as you can see here from this is an Apple ID password reset. Now, if you've requested the password reset, that's absolutely fine. If you didn't and you see one of these, then somebody else is using your Apple ID to try and get a password reset so that they can take over your Apple ID. So if you ever see one of these and you're not expecting it, whatever you do, even though it's genuine, as you can see from the grey bit in the middle where it says underneath reset now https iforgot.apple.com, and iforgot.apple.com is a genuine Apple password reset address. It is genuine. If you didn't request the password reset, don't click it, because it means somebody else is trying it on. That was just going back to, yeah, looking at email threats. Where has it come from? Who sent it? Is it an unexpected attachment? You tend to find that Windows users have bigger problems with these, because you'll often find there are attachments which can be run immediately. Windows does have a nasty habit of running attachments connected to your email. We've looked at the links embedded in it. And if in doubt, as we said, check it and look again at the basic spelling and the grammar, or the lack thereof. And that was the genuine one. This was an actual genuine thing, so we're quite happy to do that. That's what you'll see. That's what I was talking about. You receive a password email, password reset. Click on it, enter your current password, enter your new password. If it's not genuine and it didn't go to the Apple site, the thief now has access to your iCloud account. Okay, the reason they now have access to your iCloud account isn't because you've entered the new password, it's because you entered your current password, which is standard practice for a lot of password systems. If you want to change it, enter your current one now to prove you are who you say you are. Now you can change it. If you click on the link in your email, or even if you click on a dodgy website that says change your password, if you enter that information, you've just given your password to the dodgy thief. So be careful, be wary. If you didn't request it, don't do it. Nobody else is ever going to ask you to change your password out of the blue. This is another big one we come across an awful lot, and you've probably had lots of phone calls yourselves. Social engineering. It's very common, very, very, very common. And they're usually done by phone calls, although I suspect not on that sort of phone system. I would imagine that the broadband rate on that is not as good as a piece of wet string. I've just gone ahead of myself, my apologies. Right, we're going on to phone calls, social engineering. I would imagine an awful lot of you have had phone calls which have come across saying things like, I'm calling from Microsoft support and I can see that you've got some problems today. To which there are several answers, most of which are not terribly polite. We've had one or two people get caught out by it. It's very easy for some people because there's an awful lot out there that believe if somebody phones up and tells you there's a problem with your computer, they must be helping you because you must have a problem with your computer. The worst time is when we have had one or two where they have had problems with the computer at the time, and it's a horrible coincidence that these nutters have phoned them up at the time. And the biggest problems are when you start to believe it, and they tell you they can do some wonderful things. If I can just, if you could just click on this website for me, I can help you out. Well, that's the first level. You click on that website, you then agree to whatever terms and conditions happen to be on there, and then lo and behold, whoever was phoning you up can then see what you're doing on your screen. Like you can see my screen, they can see yours. And if they've done it properly, not only will they be able to see your screen, they'll also be able to control your screen. And they will tend to try and get you to enter your bank details. One of the first things they usually try and do is say, well, if you download this piece of software, if we download that now and I can run it, I can get rid of all of the problems you've got on your computer. For that, I'm going to need, and this one of two things usually, it's either your credit card details or your bank account details. I've seen the results of both. The first one is the credit card details, where they would ask you to input your number, you pop that in, that's fine, it goes in on the web screen, lovely. You then enter your usual expiry date, your name, and ultimately the three-digit code on the back. As soon as you've done that, even if you don't click a button to purchase anything, at that moment they have your credit card details and they can go and, well, have a little spending spree. You are always going to get people trying that, and it's not just the people doing the, yeah, you've been hacked, you've got a problem, you've got viruses on your machine. We've had people come along trying to get us to have timeshare across to other countries. They want us to purchase a new iPhone, or you've won an iPhone. Oh, lovely, thank you. Have I? I don't remember emptying a drawer, but we just need your credit card details. Hang on a minute, why would you need my credit card details if I've just won something? The other one that came across, which I think is now gone or died the death, was PPI. We've had some PPI scams come across. Some have just been companies trying it on. Some have been people who have got nothing to do with PPI at all. They just want, wait for it, your bank account details. Don't give it. If anybody ever phones up and says that they can see a problem with your computer, they can see that your applications are crashing, you've got lots of activity going on, we can see there's lots of viruses which are trying to download all sorts of things. Whatever you do, don't go for it, because they don't know, they can't know. They would have to have hacked your machine first to have a look at it if you had got lots of viruses on it. It is all a huge con. Any calls that come out of the blue to do with this, put the phone down. If you're feeling like having a bit of fun, wind them up. I have. When I've got the time, it's been quite fun to wind them up and then wait for them to blast me with all sorts of expletives. The phone starts there initially, and you're ultimately waving it around about 3 foot away from your ear because they've got so angry. Why they're angry when they're trying to con me, I just don't know. Less of a problem at the moment are the social engineers that try to get your passwords out of you in the street. It's a very unusual thing, but I have seen it done, and it was also done as a test. A group of people went out and asked people in the street, like a survey, and while they're doing the survey, asking about all sorts of bits and pieces about them, they then start to ask them about passwords. Well, what passwords do you tend to use? And you'll be amazed at the number of people that would actually give them their passwords and their bank account details. I would hope that most of you out there would just not do it in the first place. Any questions on that sort of thing? Is there anything anybody's come up against that they weren't sure about? Has anybody out there, I hope you haven't actually been caught out by these sods?
Mark, it's Jeff here.
Hello, Jeff.
I got a text today on my phone from Government UK saying that I could have a coronavirus test if I had the right code, a verification code. And here is the verification code: 8XYZ21438577, whatever. Is that's a scam, isn't it?
That sounds like a scam to me. Yes.
Okay. That came through on my iPhone, which I've only had for about 6 weeks, as a text.
Yeah.
So if anyone else gets that, be warned, I guess.
Yeah. Well done, Jeff. I would say with something like that, that unless you've signed up for something to send you texts of that nature, it's all a con. The only things I have come across where this COVID-19 is concerned, whereas wanting testing, tends to be a letter from the NHS, and in the main it's been from Imperial College. I've had 1 or 2 people approach me. I know I do computers, not letters. I've had 1 or 2 approach me about these, saying, is this genuine? And I've looked at the letters, and they are. The ones I've seen are genuine from Imperial. And as I've said to them, they need the information. It's genuine, go off. Had somebody sent me a text like you received of that nature, it's, you look at it and go, oh, really? No. And you're quite right. That's a scam. That has got to be a scam.
Okay. Stupid question number 3. How do you get rid of a text? Yeah, stop laughing. I don't know how you get rid of a text on an iPhone.
Throw the phone away. What if you're in your text and you scroll down?
Yeah.
There's an edit button to the top right.
Okay.
You hit edit.
Right.
Then you can. There's a button appears to the left, I believe, of every message you've got. If you select the one you want to get rid of, just single tap it.
Yeah. Okay.
There's an option on the screen somewhere to say delete.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're quite welcome. And there we are, live tech support.
Okay. Right, Martin RH. Recently, I've had iCloud not recognise my Apple user ID, and I've had to sort of re-enter it, and then it says I don't recognise that password. So I've reset via Apple, the Apple ID.
Yeah.
But I was very, very suspicious at the time as to whether this was a genuine thing or it was just Apple playing silly beggars.
I've heard of several people over the last few weeks that have had a similar thing going on. What I don't know, and what I can't tell, is whether Apple's had a problem, and as you say, playing it silly beggars, or whether somebody's tried to get into your system, get into your account. I don't know. But the only way, if anybody else out there gets this, the thing to do is you need to force the password reset yourself. Don't do the password reset on anything that comes to you. Go into one of your systems, click on some. You can do this either on your Mac, your iPad, or you can do it in a web browser somewhere else. Go to iCloud.com and click on the button that says I've forgotten my password. That way you are initiating it. That's the way to make sure it's okay. If it's what we said, it's what I showed you earlier about the I forgot. If it comes to you and you weren't expecting it, it's almost certainly a con. It may be a cock up on Apple's part. That is a possibility, but it's more likely that somebody's trying it on. They've got hold of your Apple ID, because your Apple ID in the main is just another email address. They've got hold of that and they're just trying it on. So in this instance, I can't tell you what it is, but the right thing to do was to force the password reset yourself.
Which is what I did, yeah. It just slapped me on, and I thought, am I being scammed?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for that.
Okay. Anything else on that aspect or the social engineering aspect? Anybody had any bad experiences? that's either you're too embarrassed or you haven't, which either of which is
I've
fine.
got again. I've got an anecdote that might be worth relating. Didn't happen to me. Happened to one of my relatives. They responded to an advert on Facebook for some cheap trainers.
Yeah.
And entered their debit card details in this case, to pay for these cheap trainers, and then had a load of money taken out of their account that wasn't anything to do with trainers. So be careful of adverts for cheap things on Facebook and elsewhere, no doubt.
Yeah, you're quite right. Yes, I haven't actually come across that. The only reason I haven't come across it is I don't do Facebook as such. I would personally think it's a disaster in the making. But I do understand why people use it, and John's quite right. If you start seeing things like this, and you really shouldn't be paying for anything on sites like that using any sort of a card if you can help it. It's one thing to use the facilities there which allow you to I know people put adverts up for things that you can buy and you can go around and see it. One thing to see it face to face is another thing altogether to start sending credit card details out. It's not a good idea.
Hello, Mark. It's Nigel. One thing that I've seen on Facebook recently, and I saw a warning about, are people that are putting on these lists where friends ask lots of questions, like what's your first pet? Which town were you born in? Have you got any tattoos? All these sorts of questions, 20 questions, 30 questions. And somebody made a very good point that some of the questions are actually the sort of questions that companies ask for security questions. Like, you know, what was your first school? This person was actually saying, be very careful because you could unwittingly be giving away some of your security questions to people that want to go there fishing through Facebook.
Yeah, you are quite right. As soon as you start to say what questions people are asking, the alarm bells are ringing up immediately. You're right. That's exactly what people are doing. Those questions are the sort of questions and answers we all use for the 3 questions for security purposes.
Yeah,
gives the hacker another in. It's all that sort of personal information that you need to keep to yourself.
Mark, it's Christoph. With these sort of things that come up, you know, what's your mother's maiden name, things like that. It's safest to really just make up bogus things.
It is.
Just put something that's actually not true in the first place. You know,
it's what a lot of people do, and I know that several people that use things like Facebook, when they put their details up, the only genuine thing that goes up is their name. Their date of birth is wrong. All the rest of the stuff about them is wrong, and quite often their address isn't up there. Yeah, okay, you may know you're in Suffolk, but why tell them which village you're in? The more specific information that goes up there, the more likely somebody is to be able to hack you or have a go at you. You're quite right. Absolutely. I'm glad. It's not actually nice to hear people on the other end of this. You're obviously thinking, which is brilliant. Because I come across most people in my line of work where you come across the aftermath. How do we fix this? Let's go and talk to the bank. Let's go and talk to the credit card company. Let's try and stop this from happening. And it's all too late. And it's just nice to hear people coming from the other direction. Anything else on this scam side of things?
Yeah, sadly, certainly among older and less computer literate people, oh, it's all too difficult, I won't bother with the password. It is the attitude I've come across on a couple of people. Why do we have to do this? And you try and explain it to them and they say, oh, it's hard, I can't manage. But, when they only want to do simple things like not even send emails, but just take photographs and read the occasional email.
Yeah,
it takes a lot of persuasion.
It does. It's hard work. It's an uphill struggle and it's even worse. I've dealt with it, and it can really tug at the heartstrings when you see some of the things that have happened. It's nasty. I know what I'd like to do with the miscreants out there, but none of it's legal, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on a little bit. This tends to be less of a problem these days than it used to be. The hacked apps, the ultra cheap downloadable apps. It's again rather like if it looks too good to be true, it probably is. There was an instance a few years ago where Adobe, and you've probably heard this before, Adobe got hacked, and this group of hackers managed to download the source code for Photoshop and the such like. And there did appear some very cheap and sometimes free versions of Photoshop afterwards. So they managed to create Photoshop app applications from software, from the source code, which is all very well. Okay, yeah, lovely. And we've had one or two people, oh, it's free, brilliant, we'll have that. What they didn't know was that the hackers, before they put this code out, put these programs out, put some bombs in it, some bits and pieces, some extra code of their own, which starts to look around at your machine. Specifically, it's looking for credit card details, passwords, usernames, logons. So again, you can get the cheap stuff. It does exist, but be very, very, very careful where you get it from. Make sure that it is correct. It really is genuine, despite the low price. You know, don't go to www.hackedappsforsuckers.com. Go to a genuine system somewhere. I mean, if Adobe ever bothered to be very kind and give us something, although I believe they've given us Bridge if we sign up for Creative Cloud, if they actually decide to give you the cheap apps at some point, then it will come from Adobe's website, not from a third party. The other favorite one for this sort of problem, but not from a cost point of view, is the damned Flash player. And I say that with feeling, because the damned Flash player gives me nightmares. If you have to use Adobe's Flash player because a site insists that you can't do anything without it, only ever download it from Adobe. Adobe.com, adobe.co.uk. There are so many hacked versions of Adobe's Flash player elsewhere which do all sorts of nasty things to your machine that it's almost unreal. I've never known a person to have a problem as far as hacking is concerned from Flash Player if it's from Adobe. I have known loads when they've gone and got it from somewhere else. What normally happens is you go to a website and it says you need Flash Player. Click here to download it. Just remember what we did earlier. Hover over the link and see where it goes. If it goes to Adobe's website, maybe you can click on it. If it doesn't, avoid it like the plague. But rather than clicking on that link, open up a new browser or a new browser window and go to www.adobe.co.uk and download it from there. Then you know you've got the genuine article. Well, 99.9% probability it's the genuine article. That's assuming Adobe haven't actually been hacked. Possible, but unlikely. Go for the genuine thing. You're always better off with that. The other one that came up when Apple did iWork as a package, saleable CD package and download at one point, there was a hacked version of that running around. When Apple were charging for it, some bright spot managed to get hold of a copy and put something horrible in that. Again, if it looks too good to be true, it almost certainly is. Any questions on that? Silence. This is just a picture of an example of clicking on a link that you really shouldn't have done. Sometimes people have clicked on the link and they've looked at it, and even in the back of their mind they've gone, oh, that looks a bit, oh, too late. Sometimes the link looks absolutely genuine, you click on it and you end up with this sort of nonsense coming up. If you ever see anything like this, come out of your browser, shut your machine down, go into safe mode, have a look in your browser settings, make sure there's nothing odd there, have a look at your applications, make sure nothing odd has appeared, restart your machine and carry on as per normal. These things can download some nasties, but more often than not, they're just a holding page that's trying to get you to call that number. It's the Mac support line on 203-608-6504 or something like that. It's rubbish. It's definitely not Norton, as it claims to be. It is an enormous con that just wants you to part with your money. Has anybody actually had the misfortune to come across anything like this? I take it that's a no. That's good. Yeah, there are one or two things like this. There are more and more things like this coming up now, which means that you do need to defend yourselves. Maybe you don't need a sword or a pipe stopper.
Yeah, Martin, there are some software sites, I probably mentioned this before, where there is a download link for the software you really want, but then there's a big advertising thing that says download on it, and you end up with Mac Fix-It or Mac, you know, one of the grotty.
Yep.
And I screw up your Mac bits of software.
Yes, you're quite right. Yes, Martin's quite right with that one. There are a lot of things out there like that. And a lot of the pieces of software we want to download that's not in the App Store, you go elsewhere, you'll often find there's all sorts of click on me and adverts and all sorts of things. And what looks like the download it now for your software is actually download it now for something you really didn't want in a million years. And then what they're relying on is that you're not looking properly at what you're clicking on. Your eyes have been drawn to the download it now rather than the small box to the right that says download the XYZ app that you wanted now. MacKeeper tends to be one of the favorites for doing that sort of thing. It's all over the place. There are some versions of MacKeeper which are, well, as furthest I will go to say, okay, I have yet to see it do anything useful, but there are some versions out there which are distinctly bad. It's not just MacKeeper. There is, as Martin pointed out, there is something out there called Mac Fix-It and several variations on that, which will do anything but fix your Mac. It may fix you, but it will not fix your Mac. And that's what you want to be doing to some of these. You want to be sitting there or standing there with the appropriate weaponry. Protection. This is what brings us on to the next bit. If you're out and about, which you shouldn't be at the moment, I hope you're not. Some of us don't have a choice because we've been designated, well, I'd never designate myself a key worker, but apparently that's what I am. Stick your firewall on. Pop it into stealth mode. That is, if anybody looks around at a network for your Mac, it doesn't exist. And contrary to popular belief with many Mac users, get some antivirus. We are past the point that Macs are immune. They've never actually been completely immune. They've just been more difficult to get into and less lucrative. The problem we have now is that the number of Macs in circulation has gone up. Because it's gone up, it has now got onto the virus writers' radar and the scammers' radar, so which means we are now a target. We were much less of a target in the past. We are a target now. If you're browsing websites or just working on your machine and you get a request that comes up and says, click on OK to install me now, unless you've downloaded something or done something yourself that you're expecting something to come up and say, yes, click OK to install me, it's a con, it's a scam, and you're all right at the moment. But if you click on OK, you could be in deep, deep trouble. Because the next thing after clicking OK is, I'm going to install this. Please enter your Mac password to install this piece of software, which you may or may not, and almost certainly do not want. Cancel it. Just cancel the thing, and then start to think about, where did this come from? As we said before, if it looks too good to be true, it almost certainly is. Be vigilant. Think before you click. Look at things. Read it. Read it again. If anything in the back of your mind just tickles for a single moment, walk away from it. Go and ask somebody else. Do a search on it. Google can be your friend some of the time, even though they can be intrusive. But do go and search on things. Search for something. If somebody's recommended a piece of software that's going to clean up your Mac and do X, Y, and Z, start doing some research. Get onto Google. See what the stuff is like. Is it genuine? Oh my goodness, it's not genuine. It's a con and they've already got it. Missed that one, aren't I lucky? And do try to keep your operating system up to date. The updates quite often, especially for the older versions of software out there, tend to be security issues rather than making it go quicker or adding anything new and whizzy. Most of them, yeah, they are security problems. They will help to protect the Mac. They are not a substitute for antivirus. They are just trying to stop people getting into your Mac. Passwords. Passwords? What were we saying about characters? Minimum of 8. Mixture of upper and lower. 1 or more numbers. Other characters can be used, and actually they can be quite useful. One of the commonest things that I suspect most of you use now and again is to substitute letters with numbers. Things like using 4 for an A, using a 3 instead of an E. It was a good idea at the start, but it's a little bit weak these days because everybody does it and it's a little bit obvious. So throwing a few different characters in there is always good. Names, family names. I will not ask for a shower of hands of who might have done this. I still come across an awful lot of this. Pet names, family names, car registrations, car models, car make. Come across an awful lot of that. The other favorite one, and I know when you set your Mac up that it asks you for a password hint. I still think that's a bad idea. It's not such an issue for online stuff. It's really only an issue if somebody nicks your Mac. But I would hope that you've got your iCloud set up so that if somebody does nick it, A, you can find it, and B, you can wipe it remotely. But if you do set up things, try not to put a hint in. The worst hints I've ever seen is when people have said, all right, this is my username. What's my password? I'm going to use a password. Oh, well, I'll use password. And then what's the hint? Password. Secure that. Although you might think it's not secure, I've always had to kick myself when I've had to ask people for their password. And they look at me dumbfounded and just say, password. They think, well, I would never thought of trying it, so I'll never make a proper hacker. Oops. I've doubled up. Don't use the same password. Well, that's the other thing. That's the difficult thing most of us have. And I would imagine most people out there use the same password or a very, very, very slight variation on the same password for most websites they visit, and email addresses as well. The problem with that is if you use the same password, if they get that password, the first thing that the hackers, it actually sounds like too nice a term these days, that the idiots were going to do is to try the password they've just found on every site you've got. So if you use the same password and email address for your Amazon account or iCloud account, your Facebook account, your Gmail account, your your whatever account, there's a high probability they're going to get into everything, and it then becomes very difficult to get it back. As for anti-malware, that's just a list. This is a personal preference. This is not, I'm not going to tell you should get this one, you should avoid that one. I'm not telling you you've got to pay for this one, where you should get that one free. I'll just run down them briefly. Avira is available free. Avast has now taken over AVG. So Avast/AVG, there is a free version for the Mac. Bitdefender, I think there's a free version, but I'm not sure. ESETS, I know, is a good one. Intego has been used for the Mac for years and years and years. I don't know of any issues. Sophos did do a free version. I'm not sure they still do. Malwarebytes is a little bit different. It doesn't tend to look just for the viruses like all the other stuff does. It looks for all sorts of malware, and it was first appeared on the PC. It's quite good. I find it's a useful thing as part of your defense arsenal rather than the core of it. I personally use Bitdefender. I researched it a few years ago in depth and found it's one of the ones that gives my system the least headaches and picks up quite a lot of bad stuff. And it picks a lot of stuff up in the emails. It also picks up Windows viruses, which is what you need the stuff to do as well, because you then help to protect our, how shall I say it, our Windows brethren. I could get a kicking for that one. So do install some malware.
Mark,
don't
it's
ignore
John Lightfoot. I took your earlier hint about Bitdefender and downloaded it 2 or 3 weeks ago. I was absolutely stunned at the activity it was sorting. It seemed to be finding something coming in, you know, every hour, and suddenly you get a screen full of stuff, and it's quarantined it, it's deleted it, it's done this, that, and the other. But I was really surprised. I think I was probably expecting, you know, attack every other day, but this seemed to be going wat-a-tat-tat the whole time. But anyway, so thank you.
Yeah, I think what you tend to find when you install any of these initially, the first time you pop them in, they're going to do a big scan of your Mac, which means they will scan all of your old emails as well. And I found with mine is that initially there was, as John has found, there was a big, oh my God, look at this, that, oh, surely not. And then you look at it and think, yeah, it's genuine, it has found them. Then it all calms down and it just quietly gets on with it in the background. But yeah, proof that these things do work and that there is malware out there which can affect the Mac. We are not immune. I wish we were, we are not. We're not in as bad a position as the Windows people, but we are not immune. There is stuff out there.
Mark, it's Jeff.
Yes, Jeff.
Will Bitdefender or any other program look at your plugged in hard drives, you know, your external hard drives?
Yes, they will look at those as well. It's not just the drive inside your Mac. They will look at the external drives as well. And you can, if you plug another drive in, you can force them via pop-up menus to scan a particular folder or a particular file. If you see a file you don't trust, you can control-click on it and tell things like Bitdefender to scan this, see what you think.
Okay.
If it doesn't like it, it will tell you. If it does like it, it will say, yeah, that's all right, get on with it.
Okay.
Mark?
Yes.
That's Cyril here. Yeah, earlier on I mentioned about I use FSecure because that comes offered at a good rate through Virgin. So that's why I've been using that one. But would you recommend using like 2 systems for virus checking, or just the one?
No, this is something I've come across before. FSecure is fine. It's not that I was ignoring it, I've just forgotten about it. No, do not install more than one piece of virus scanning or anti-malware software, because you'll find what happens is they scan in real time. So when a new file comes along, the antivirus software goes, oh, I must have a look at that. That's fine. If you've got two of them, they're then going to fight over who gets to look at it, and that will slow your machine down. So it's not worth it. They're not. There isn't a large enough difference between them to say that, oh, brand X will get this and brand Y will do that. Just stick with the one. Go for one you like. Try it. Go to Google. Look at the reviews on them. Find out what other people think about things, and then make your own decision on which one you're going for. But do not install two. It's a disaster waiting to happen.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, Mark, it's Nigel again. Two things on that. Firstly, I'm with BT and they offer McAfee as a free add-on. Is that worth running? And I also run ad blocker. Is it okay to run the two together or not?
Yes. Ad blocker is not actually anti-malware. It's just stopping pop-up adverts from coming into your browser.
Right. Okay. And the McAfee free one is okay as well from BT.
I'm going to say yes because I don't know. I haven't had a play with it. I haven't looked into it. The only reason I said Bitdefender is because at the time when I did do a lot of looking into it, it came across as the best of the bunch.
Sure.
Whether it still is, I don't know. I don't have the time to keep looking and looking. If it gives me a problem, believe me, I'll look again and I'll let you know.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, Mark. Martin Gould. Hi there. During lockdown, I've managed to do my finances, sort out my power of attorney, wills, etc., etc. I'm more or less paperless, and so I've had to make a decision about what to do with my, who to notify about my log-on password and the password for one password, which contains my whole life.
Yes.
So I have printed off one copy, and it's hidden somewhere where my daughters know, and I'm going to give one copy to my solicitor. Can be a big problem. I know people have died and everything's on their computer and it's all locked. And it causes immense problems.
Yeah. Martin has a very, very valid point there, and it's something most of us don't consider, is that when we're gone, eventually, but not yet, I don't intend to go just yet, what do you do? And I actually think what he just said makes perfect sense. Give a copy of your basic login passwords, especially if you've got something like 1Password, which requires 1Password to get in, then you've got access to everything, both to a member of family and to your solicitor. You should be able to trust both. Otherwise, they may have trouble getting in. Or this is the other aspect, they may have to pay somebody like me to get in for them. But you don't want to do that. Better to actually do, as Martin has said, one copy to a family member, one copy to a solicitor. Any other questions?
Well, not a question, but I don't think I'd ever give my password to to either of my two sons.
Oh, lovely.
Mark, I didn't physically give them to them. They're hidden somewhere securely in the house. I would agree with that.
Yes. Well, that does make even better sense. So they've got access to it if necessary. Just don't go on holiday and give them a key. Okay, last piece. Simple security, most of which we've already gone past. Normally, as you said to start there, don't save your login details in your browser. Well, that's a bit of a mixed bag, because Safari and the Apple keychain system is quite good. The passwords are not saved in plain text. So if somebody got into the system, they'd have to get in and have your password and have the machine running to get into the rest of the system, to get into your passwords. Some web browsers that offer to save your passwords, unfortunately, save them in plain text. You can go into the system, look at a file, and oh look, there's a list of all your passwords. Firefox used to, I don't know if it still does. Google Chrome at one point did as well. Whether they do now, I don't know. But think about that carefully. But the problem these days is with the number of passwords we have to have for the number of logins we have, really and truly, we cannot remember all the passwords, particularly not if they're going to be secure. It's one thing if you use the same password for everything, which is kind of a pointless exercise, but as soon as you start getting to complex passwords, most of us will never remember. We've said before, use a different password, make regular backups. Yeah, if it does all go pear-shaped, you do get hacked. If somebody manages to get into your machine, if you've got a secure backup, you can always get it back. I do know of some hacks that have gone on where people's systems have been wiped and they say, we've lost everything. I look at them and think, well, what about your backup? To which the answer is, what backup? Well, I can't help you then. Be wary of cold phone calls, or better still, as soon as the cold call comes through, put the phone down and tell them where to go. Cold text, Jeff gave us a good example of that. Ignore those. Too good to be true? Oh yes. Watch for the email scams, infected attachments. The attachment cannot hurt you unless you save it and run it. You've got to save it and run it before it can do anything. It cannot do something on its own. And I think there's one last slide, which is a very brief thing because an awful lot of you will be using Wi-Fi. You should have it secure at home, because anybody can use your broadband if it's not. If you've got somebody sitting outside in their car, standing outside with their iPhone, and you have not got a secure Wi-Fi system, they can use your Wi-Fi to access any website in the world, and they can get into your computers if they're really good and they stay there longer. Mind you, if somebody's sitting outside your house in their car with a laptop for 2 days, I think you might be suspicious. The biggest issue, though, is that if somebody was doing that, they're hooked onto your Wi-Fi and they're accessing websites using your broadband. If they were going to, for example, the worst case is paedophiles going onto child porn, that could be tracked down to your broadband connection, tracked down to your house. At that point, they could arrest you for the activity, even though you yourself didn't do it. The chances are you would never be prosecuted at the end, because if you didn't use your computer to do it, they can't prove you did it. But what they can prove is it went into your Wi-Fi, it went into your house. So make sure where your Wi-Fi is concerned that you actually do have a proper secure password on it. Most things come with a pretty secure password, even from the suppliers these days. And the other thing is, the thing that the pet hate I've been getting at the moment are adverts for things like a NordVPN. You are only secure on Wi-Fi in your house if you had NordVPN. It's a complete and utter load of old twaddle. For goodness sake, don't buy it. It's not worth it. It doesn't help you. The only time something like that might have any sort of bearing is if you're out and about in a coffee shop of some sort. And at the moment, none of you should be in a coffee shop anyway. And if there are no more questions,
I have a question, Mark. Monica Barton speaking.
Hi, Monica.
Hi, Mark. Can I check on Safari whether I've asked them to save any passwords?
You can check in Safari where you've saved passwords if you have. And if you watch, I'll show you. Go into Safari. If you click on the menu, go to Safari Preferences. When that comes up, you've got a passwords key there. You click on the passwords key, And it was going to ask you, it says your passwords are locked. To unlock passwords, and enter the password for the user Mark Alice. In this instance, what that is, that's going to be your Mac login password. And as you can't see it, I'll type it in, hit the enter key, and it now gives me a list of websites where I have saved passwords. Okay.
Yeah.
If you then click on one of those websites, and I'm not going to do it for obvious reasons, if you click on one of those websites, one of these, it will then show you the password you've saved there. So if you go into Safari preferences, passwords, you'll be able to see whether or not you are saving passwords. If there's nothing in there, then you're not saving passwords.
Okay. Okay. Right.
Mark, it's Cyril. I've got a couple of questions I'd like to put through. One that on the latter part of your talk there, you talked about people sitting outside your house potentially you can use your internet and all the rest of it. What about things like with both Virgin and indeed BT where they have hotspots? So they're actually using your hub, as it were, for other people to use.
Yeah, with the hotspots, yeah, other people can use it. You can turn the hotspot off. If you go into BT router, it's possible to switch it off. How that works, they can't, the people coming into that BT hotspot get routed through your router up to the broadband. They don't actually get onto your personal network.
Okay.
So if anybody did do something of that nature, it shouldn't, in theory, depending on how BT set it up, it shouldn't show up as being you.
They would have to use their own BT password to log in, so it would be down to them, or some hacked password that they got from somebody.
Yeah, it should show up as being down to them, but without knowing quite how it's set up, I can't guarantee how it works. But okay. I know they can't see your network.
Okay, that's good. That's good. That's reassuring. The other thing was, I think from one of your previous talks on passwords, you were talking about using ordinary words were more difficult. I think it was, you said may not have been, but anyway, because a lot of passwords like you get supplied to you, they're just a load of random characters usually, hence why we don't remember them. But if you're actually using physical words, then I thought there was some, because maybe they're being decrypted or by machines that look for similarities. So if you use like two words joined together that are totally non-related, then maybe is that regarded as a strong password? I know you still need perhaps a character and a capital letter and a lower case, but it was how the password is actually made up. Is there a preference?
Yeah, the trouble now is that with passwords that are made of words, it doesn't matter if the words are not related to each other. It's relatively easy for a computer system these days to work out what those passwords are. So the more random it is, the better. So you really need a random password to be secure or reasonably secure. If you just use words, if you gave me your database of words, which won't look like words to you, I could probably hack it within an hour or two, or use my computer to do it within an hour or two. Whereas if it's just random characters, it's going to take a lot longer to figure it out, if ever.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Not that it probably helps, but I always name my Wi-Fi things something like Hackers Network or Virus Network, just to try and make people, ooh, I wouldn't go there.
Actually, it's a funny thing. You've got the right idea. One of the Wi-Fi names I hate to see is when people name the Wi-Fi either after themselves, like the Ellis household, or after the name of the house, or the number and the name of the road you're in. And you just think, well, you've just pointed out exactly where you are. So yeah, random Wi-Fi names are always good. The names that come with BT routers, Sky routers and the such like aren't too bad. Okay, they know you're on Sky, they know you're on BT, but they don't actually know which house it is. So yeah, you're quite right. Doing something, the hacker's nest or something. Some people would definitely be going, "Whoa, I don't like the look of that," and other people just go, "Who the hell is that?" So yeah,
hide the SSID altogether.
Yes, you can do that. I'm assuming all routers can do it, but I'm not convinced they all will. But yeah, Martin's quite right. You can, most of us broadcast our Wi-Fi ID. You don't have to. You can actually tell the system to hide it, so it doesn't broadcast it to the world. It does mean when you want to hook up a new device and you tell it to look for Wi-Fi, it will sit there churning away saying, "There's no Wi-Fi out here, mate. I can't see anything." It does mean you've then got to set it up manually in the system. You've got to tell it what the Wi-Fi ID is, as well as putting in the passphrase. But it depends on how secure you want to be.
One thing on Wi-Fi, do you recommend putting your Internet of Things devices onto the guest network?
No, I wouldn't, because if you do that and they need access to your normal network, they won't get near it. Because the guest networks tend to, although it's still on your physical Wi-Fi, they don't have access to anything else on your system. And it kind of depends on what the IoT things you've got are and what they need access to. If they need access to anything, and that means if you need to access them from your computer, if they're on the guest network and you're on your main network, never the twain shall meet. You won't be able to do anything with them. If they don't need to, then there's no reason why they shouldn't be on the guest network, which would also mean if somebody hacked your IoT device, they wouldn't be getting into your main network. They'd only get into that network, into the guest network. So pros and cons.
Are we done?
I don't know. Are we done?
I think we are. I think we are. And in fact, we've been going for 2 hours now, so it's probably.
God, I meant gone for an hour. You should have kicked me.
No, that's all right. That's all right. No, it's been absolutely fascinating, and thank you very much. Mark, can you hand me back control of the screen? I think you need to do.
I don't want to do that. I've got the power. Let me dump the screen sharing, and you should get it back. Have you got it?
That's better. I can see everybody. Folks, thanks so much for coming along tonight. Hope it's been useful for you. Our next meeting is same time next Wednesday, when I will be kind of continuing my Affinity Photo course with an evening dedicated to bridge and bridge integration within Affinity Photo. I'll send you some information about that tomorrow. As I said, we have a committee meeting in a couple of days, so I'll be in touch with everybody about the result of that and our way ahead through the rest of this ghastly period as soon as I can, probably early next week. But stay safe. Lovely to see you all as ever, and I look forward to seeing some of you next week.
Before you all go,
taking off.
Just a minute. Just a minute. Did everybody get a message from CJ Harold?
Oh yes, that was in comments, wasn't it?
Can you have a look, because it is important. If you see it, have a look at it. Do have a look, because it is relevant.
I need it.
It's basically trying to tell us that. Yeah, if you look at.
I've just on the screen. Sorry, too many people. Can you just hold for a second, everyone? I've just done a screen grab of that shot, and I'll include that information in my next mail out. Okay.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay. Cheers.
Okay. Bye. Have a good night.
Bye.
Cheers. Back to the chain.
Thank you.
Well done, Matt.